Hello, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing week. Maria Taylor alongside Tony Dungy and Mike Florio. And guess what, guys? We are back like we never left for a Week 18 preview, closing out the regular season together.
It's fun to be back.
Unbelievable. It's already here.
Man.
Unbelievable. Season flies by like it always does.
It does. And, you know, obviously at the end of the season, we're all just kind of waiting to see what games had the most implications. So we've kind of like pulled out a few. We've also figured out what games Mike and Coach want to really talk about. And let's start with the Saints and the Falcons, because it's an opportunity really for the Falcons to spoil things for their division rivals. Obviously, it's a heated rivalry. They don't like each other. The Saints are coming to Atlanta with an opportunity to play themselves into the playoffs. And why wouldn't the Falcons want to spoil it? So, Coach, when you think about this matchup, though, we know the Falcons went on the road and got the victory in New Orleans already this season, but there was a different quarterback at the helm. The game looked a little bit different. What changes in this iteration of Falcons Saints?
Well, the Saints' offensive attack definitely will be different now, and that is a big issue. But I think Arthur Smith and the Falcons, from their standpoint, hey, let's finish the season strong. Let's build into the 2022 season. Here's a team we're playing against that's trying to get in the playoffs. We're not there yet, but we can show that we belong. Let's go out and win this game, and I think that's going to be the Falcons' point of view.
Yeah, and absolutely. When you can throw a wrench into a division rival's opportunity to get to the postseason, and there is real hatred between the Falcons and the Saints. I remember a time not that many years ago where the Saints, I think, came to Atlanta, or the Falcons went to New Orleans, but there were eggs involved. I think it was the Saints in Atlanta. They egged the buses at the airport. That's how much animosity there is. And it's amazing what the Falcons have done this year. Now, when they lose, they don't mess around. They get blown off the field, but they've won 7 out of 16 games. And to finish 8-9 in a season where I don't know what we expected, but we sure didn't expect 8 wins. It's a great way for Arthur Smith to start his time. Terry Fontenot is the GM, trying to turn a team around that was in a horrible cap situation, moving in the right direction, and they could be contenders for a postseason berth next year. And this is the right way to enter the offseason, getting a win and keeping the Saints out of the playoffs.
Well, and it probably doesn't hurt that we've seen some superstar performances from rookies like Kyle Pitts and Patterson. But Pitts just returned to practice. I believe it was limited. So what does that mean for the Falcons if one of their superstar, receivers, tight ends, is not able to take the field against the Saints, Mike?
Well, it's going to be a huge impact because we've seen what Pitts has done, especially because it took him a few weeks to get going, and he pulled up with that hamstring injury on Sunday against the Bills when he was in the midst of having what could have been a really good game in the snow in western New York. So it's going to make it easier to focus on taking away Cordell Patterson if you don't have to worry about Kyle Pitts, and it makes it easier for the Saints, who have a very good defense. And look, all the other playoff teams in the NFC field should be rooting for the Falcons in this. Although, you know what, I don't know who you're better off with, the Saints or the 49ers. Either way, you're going to have a team that gets into the playoffs that can really screw things up for the teams that are winning divisions and sitting back and waiting to see who comes to town. We know the 49ers can beat anyone, but we know the Saints can too. I think either of those two teams, whichever one gets in, could be very dangerous when it's time to play those playoff games. Maybe the playoff team should just be happy that both of them aren't getting in, that it's only going to be one of them.
Mike, I can tell you one team that's rooting for the Falcons this week, and that's Tampa Bay. They don't want to see the Saints again in the playoffs.
And we don't need to see them either, because we definitely picked the wrong team when we had them on Sunday Night Football. The Saints got us all together, and only Drew Brees got that pick right. All right, Mike, you brought up the 49ers, so let's talk about their visit to SoFi. It's a Rams team, obviously, that is looking to clinch the NFC West. The opportunities are out there. We've seen up and down play from Matthew Stafford. We've seen amazing play from Cooper Kupp. And the quarterback situation with the 49ers, we would love to get some clarification on, because will it be Jimmy Garoppolo? Will it be Trey Lance? And obviously that makes a difference moving forward. But, Coach, when you think about the headline of this game, what stands out to you?
Well, I think it's the mojo that the 49ers have had over the Rams. Doesn't matter what the records are. The Rams, had a Super Bowl team a couple of years ago, but they have struggled with the 49ers. And it's just that physical run offense. They run right downhill, right at Aaron Donald and that defensive line. They don't get into obvious pass situations. And they've got enough pressure package on defense to pressure Matthew Stafford. So this is going to be an interesting game. the Rams should win it. You know, you feel like, gosh, they're in the driver's seat, but they have struggled with the 49ers.
Jimmy Garoppolo was limited in practice Wednesday and Thursday, and it looks like they are leaning in the direction of giving him the opportunity. This is a big game. They've won 5 in a row against the Rams, as Coach said. But the Rams do have that extra incentive. Knock the 49ers out. For the same reason the Buccaneers don't want the Saints in the playoff field, the Rams shouldn't want the 49ers. You don't want to come across a division rival with your entire season riding on it, and this is the opportunity for the Rams to keep the 49ers out and not have to worry about them again. The 49ers, for whatever reason, have been able to master the Rams. I think it helps that Kyle Shanahan knows the way Sean McVay coaches. They were together in Washington. McVay worked for Shanahan, and I think Shanahan took much better notes on McVay than McVay took on Shanahan because Shanahan has had the better of McVay. But now McVay's got the best team he's had, even with Stafford being up and down. Von Miller has started to come into his own as a member of that defense. Odell Beckham is getting better and better every week. Those midseason acquisitions are finally starting to pay off. 5 straight wins, and the last 2, the Rams haven't been very good, and they still won those games. That has to give them a ton of confidence going into this game and the playoffs.
I have a question for you, Coach. Are you more concerned with Matthew Stafford's throwing 3 picks or the way that he was able to establish the comeback and throw, 2 darts in the fourth quarter to win the game, even though he put his team into a hole? I don't know. What concerns you most, or what have you seen in his play as of late?
Well, I think if I'm coaching, I feel like I can coach those interceptions out of him and say, hey, we've got to take care of the ball early in the game. But if I'm behind and we've got to come back in the fourth quarter, you can't put that into a quarterback. Matthew Stafford's got that, and I think Sean McVay is going to feel good about that. No matter how we play, if we're close at the end, Matthew Stafford, Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, these guys can make the play for us to win the game in the fourth quarter. So I think Coach McVay is feeling pretty good about Stafford, even with the interceptions right now.
Your thoughts, Mike?
Look, I agree completely with where this is all going for the Rams. They're moving in the right direction. And Stafford, the question is this. He's never played in games like this in his entire career. He's had a handful of playoff games. They've lost. The Lions have never been a front runner. They've never had that pressure. This is all new to him. And I think that it's incumbent on Sean McVay to challenge him, to push him, to test him, to get him ready for what he's going to face. Because I feel like that's what's gone on the past couple of weeks. He's not used to being in these late season games where you're with a team that is regarded as one of the great teams in the conference. It's always been scratching and clawing as a member of the Lions. So he's got to develop on the fly that attitude that we see most quarterbacks in their 30s who have plenty of playoff experience project. He doesn't have that.
But that's where I feel like he should be okay going into these playoffs because he has never gone in with the best team. Now you say, hey, I'm playing a playoff game, but I've got a better team. And that's got to relax you a little bit. In the past, when he's gone in with Detroit, I've got to make plays. I've got to win this game. I've got to do this. He's got so much around him now. I think he can relax. I think we're going to see the best Matthew Stafford in the playoffs. I really do.
Okay, good. So I would say that you guys are erring on encouraged and not concerned when it comes to Matthew Stafford and his play moving forward. Okay, obviously there's going to be a lot of concerns when we talk about the Jaguars, but let's talk about the Colts coming into town and trying to do something that they haven't been able to do in 6 tries, and that's get a win, actually, against the Jags in Jacksonville, which is an interesting stat. Mike Florio, that's something that you and I would think is really interesting. That's something that coach would be like, who cares? This is a better team. What do you make of the Indianapolis Colts and obviously having to go and get a win in Jacksonville, but probably wanting to build more importantly to the playoffs as they try to make it to their 3rd playoff in 4 years?
Well, I'll say this. I'll start. The Colts should win this game, but it's not going to be as easy as people think. Even though Jacksonville hasn't won many games, they don't have a great team. I remember 2003. I was with the Colts we're in the same situation. We're playing Houston, expansion team. All we had to do is win the game. We're going to win the division. Should win it easily. We were behind the whole game, had to score twice in the last 3 minutes to win the game. And it's just the other Jacksonville can come out. They can play relaxed. They can be the spoiler. They can take chances. They can gamble. All the pressure's on Indy. Now, they should win it. I believe they will win it, but it's not going to be easy.
I'm just concerned about the psyche of the Jaguars at this point. We've seen no positive upswing from the Jaguars since the firing of Urban Meyer. They gave up 50 points to the Patriots last weekend. I kind of feel like they're just checking the boxes to get to the offseason and figure out where they're going to go from here. It's kind of an indictment of Darrell Bevell as the interim head coach that they haven't had any type of a positive bump following the departure of Urban Meyer. And I don't know how many fans are going to show up dressed in clown suits on Sunday, but that's become a thing for the Jaguars. Fans aren't happy that Trent Baalke's already been ordained as the GM moving forward, and there's been a big push this week. So I don't know how that swings for the Jaguars, but it is going to be a potential reality. And I put it this way, Coach. If the Colts can't beat a 2-14 team to punch a ticket to the playoffs, then they got no business being in the playoffs. That's the ultimate litmus test. If you can't beat a team that is that low, that is that downtrodden to get in, then you don't want to play an actual playoff team on the road the following week.
No, you're right. And that Jaguars-Patriots game was ugly. And you just don't know how many of the Jags players are just saying, I don't want to get hurt in this last game of the year. You don't know what their mentality is. But I agree with you. I think the Colts will win it. They should win it. And that's going to, have some people in Baltimore and Pittsburgh kind of on edge there, so to speak.
Well, all of our eyes will be watching for the clown out. The Jaguars have lost 8 straight games, and then the Colts are coming to town. We all love to watch Jonathan Taylor run the ball. He's got 10 games of at least 100 yards rushing, which is very impressive. But you bring up the coaching decision that has to be made in Jacksonville, and what type of coach, as the Jaguars go through this coaching search, Mike Florio, what are they looking for? Or what are some of the interviews and coaches that they're thinking about bringing in to solve the issues that exist in Jacksonville?
Well, they cast a pretty broad net with coaches that they requested the opportunity to interview when the window opened a couple of weeks ago. A few of them have declined for now. The fact that they've decided to keep Trent Baalke around is going to potentially keep some viable candidates who may have options elsewhere from being interested. That's just a dynamic that needs to be processed by whoever the candidates are. But the key is going to be having someone who can develop Trevor Lawrence. He was the crown jewel of the 2021 draft class. He's the franchise quarterback. He's the difference maker, and he's had a wasted season as a rookie. And I know that, look, he shouldn't have any real say in what goes on here, but they do need to be concerned about whoever this coach is, whatever staff is put in place, moving Trevor Lawrence in the direction that they need him to move in and getting the most out of him as a player, because where he goes is where the Jaguars are going to go over the next 5 or 10 years, Coach.
Yeah, and, I've thrown this name out before, and I'll say it again. I think Jim Caldwell is the best candidate for Jacksonville for a number of reasons. First of all, they need stability and class and doing things in a first-class manner, and Jim Caldwell is going to bring that. And then, Mike, you mentioned developing Trevor Lawrence. Well, you look at Jim's record with young quarterbacks. He came in with Peyton Manning in Peyton's 5th year, and you look at Peyton's numbers after being with Jim Caldwell, a tremendous difference. Then he went to Baltimore, and Joe Flacco took him to a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, outstanding in his work with Stafford and turning him into a playoff caliber quarterback. I know what Jim can do with quarterbacks, and he'll be somebody that could work with Trent Baalke. Jim Caldwell can work with anybody. And so I just throw that out for Jaguars management. You better check out Jim Caldwell.
Some free advice from Tony Dungy, okay? Take it or leave it, but trust us, it is good advice always. So that's the Jaguars sitting at 2-14. They've got the Colts coming into town, and obviously a lot more on the plate for the Colts than the Jags. Meanwhile, there's a lot on the line for the Raiders taking on the Chargers, guys. For 3 straight weeks, we've seen the Raiders really having to endure nail biters, but every single game was a step closer to their playoff hopes. And now they're in a situation, they continue to win. They could possibly make it to their second playoff appearance in 19 seasons for the Raiders. How have they been able to do it, Coach? How have they made it to this point, considering all the adversity and everything they've been through this season?
I have to give a lot of credit to Rich Bisaccia, stepping in to a really tough situation and keeping them alive, keeping them motivated, keeping them together. You know, you lose your head coach, your offensive play caller, and all the drama that went along with that, with John Gruden having to step down, and then the Henry Ruggs situation. Then you lose Darren Waller, another one of your great offensive players. And you're kind of going back and forth handling that. And then you have the game against Kansas City where you get blown out and it looks like the season's over. But those players didn't quit. They stayed in there. They won some games that defy logic. But Rich has done a great job of just getting everybody to come to work and work hard and be on the same page. And they've got a chance to, a home game, to make it to the playoffs. So I think they're in great shape, and I think Rich has done a tremendous job.
It really is amazing when you look at their season. They started 3-0. They were 5-2 at their bye. Coming out of their bye, they went 1-5, with the only victory being that huge win over the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. And then just as it was falling apart, and remember how upset they were that their game against the Browns got delayed from a Saturday to a Monday, and they were salty about that. They're at the airport. They don't know what they're going to do. Players were complaining. Why are the Browns getting the 2 extra days? And they won that game. And that changed everything. They've won 3 in a row, and here they are. And that win over the Colts on the road was the crowning achievement for the team this year that puts them right in the mix. And now it all comes down to one game after everything they've been through with John Gruden and Henry Ruggs and Rich Bisaccia having to take over, and the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows, to have it come down to one game at home where John Madden's wife and family are going to light the Al Davis torch. You know, I know that home field advantage doesn't mean what it used to a couple of years ago, but it's going to be a heck of a scene in Las Vegas. And I just feel like all those intangibles add up for the Raiders. And Derek Carr's been trying to prove that he belongs his entire career. This would be his greatest achievement yet if he can will this team to the postseason. And he's really become the heart and the soul and the face of the Raiders post-John Gruden. If they can pull this off, it's a huge, huge accomplishment for him and for the franchise.
And you're right,
and
Mike.
Remember,
the emotion,
he missed that last
energy,
playoff
that's going to say something. Yeah.
I was just going to say that he missed the last playoff berth with that broken ankle, too, in 2016. So I was just adding to all the allure and the storylines that you were going with. But go ahead, Coach.
No, the emotion, the energy, all of that, the passion, it's going to come out from the Raiders. They're going to be a tough team to deal with Sunday night, no question about it.
Well, let's talk about the Chargers a little bit, because this is a team with Justin Herbert. I mean, he's been playing out of his mind this season. The quarterback has really stepped into his own. When you're going into an environment where you know that there's so much to play for, everything that we've just talked about, the emotions and what's going to be there in that stadium, how do you think the Chargers will respond, Coach?
I think their offense is going to be fine. They've got big play people. They've been hot all year. My question is with the defense. They've got to stop Josh Jacobs early on. That's going to be the key. And then can they limit those big plays from Derek Carr? Their Achilles heel has been their run defense. And I see the Raiders running right at them, see if they can hold up. But if the defense does the job, they're going to be in good shape. This is going to be a high-scoring game, in my opinion.
It's amazing when you look at their season. They've won at Kansas City, one of the best teams in the AFC. They won at Philadelphia, a playoff team in the NFC. They won at Cincinnati 41-22. And maybe one of the reasons why they're good on the road is they're always on the road, because they really don't have much of a fan base showing up at their stadium now. But they've been so inconsistent, they're hard to trust. That's the problem. Every time you get a great game out of the Chargers, you get a bad game out of the Chargers. And for as good as Justin Herbert has been, and that defense, Coach, you're right, it lets them down by not stopping the run and negating whatever great things Justin Herbert can do. And Brandon Staley's been controversial at times with his commitment to analytics and going for it on fourth down and all those. Look, there's no numbers to play in this game. The only number is win it. And he needs to set aside the charts and just focus on his gut feeling based on 16 games now as a head coach. What's the right thing to do that is pointed toward winning this game this night so they can get to the playoffs? And it's you couldn't ask for anything other than this. A holy roller rematch between two AFL teams. One gets in and one gets out. And it's going to be a great, great game.
You know, normally we would end the show on whatever is the Sunday Night Football game, but just so you guys know out there, we have a group text before we all get together. We get to decide which games we want, and Mr. Mike Florio wanted to add one game to our list that was not originally on it. And what game is that, Mike?
Well, it's not Vikings-Bears, which some may think would have been my choice. It's for the final game of Ben Roethlisberger's career, unless the Jaguars beat the Colts and the Steelers beat the Ravens, he's got to go to Baltimore. And the Steelers have been abysmal away from home this year. They haven't won a road game since October 31 at Cleveland. They're great at home. They hadn't lost at home and haven't lost at home since week 3 against the Bengals. They had that one tie against the Lions. All the rest have been wins. But for as great as it was on Monday night, and as special of a moment as it was, with everything that went on with the Ben Roethlisberger appreciation, this is going to be the exact opposite. And I'm sure now, and my guess is when he made it known that this is it for him, he did it understanding that he's writing a check that, you know, he's going to have to honor with the last game of his career at Baltimore. They're bringing Terrell Suggs in to honor him. He's the guy that sacked Ben Roethlisberger more than anyone else. The Ravens hate the Steelers. The Ravens are going to want to make this day as miserable as it can be for Ben Roethlisberger, and I think they're going to succeed, and it's going to be 180 degrees different from what we saw on Monday night when the Ravens get their last crack at Ben Roethlisberger, Coach.
Yeah, it will definitely not be warm and fuzzy. They will not be rolling out, lawn chairs and those kind of gifts for Ben on his farewell tour. This is going to be blood and guts, and those Ravens would like nothing more than to get a win over Ben Roethlisberger in his last game.
Well, I love the fact that we get to end Week 18 with blood and guts. Like, there's nothing else that can top our entire end of the regular season preview than those two words. And we're going to bring all of that to you on Football Night in America, starting at 7 Eastern on NBC. And, of course, a great Sunday Night Football game coming your way with the Chargers on the road taking on the Raiders. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Everyone have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Thanks, Maria.
All right, see you Sunday.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.